You don't want it. So you don't want the therapy. But you're mad at the kids because he's their father. So you're angry with him. And you take it out on the kids. You're mad at the kids. You're yelling at the kids. You're grabbing the kids. You're putting them on a extra punishment. When you look at them, you see him. I don't know any woman, unless I was going to say, I don't know any woman that truly hates their child's father, their kid's father. Now, if he's a horrible person, an abusive person, out there doing some crazy stuff, and it's affected you and the kids, you could be pretty upset and angry with him. But to outright just despise, detest, and hate him, even if he cheated on you, whatever, even if he's not supporting the children, he's not spending time with the children, he's not making sure that they have help financially, you still feel what you feel for him. There's some connection there. Now, I'm not saying you can't get along without him, but there is just something about having a child, in my opinion, that bonds you with their father or fathers. But you can get on with your life and live a productive, happy life. But you gotta stop taking things out on the kids. Stop punishing them because you're angry with him. But we don't need the therapy. But you're dumping on the kids. And when the kids get older, they may realize it and they may not. Anyway, when they get older, they're going to be doing things and, getting themselves caught up in situations. And what can you say about it? Because some of those things is because what's been dumped on them. And you dump things on them because you don't resolve. We don't resolve issues. I know what I'm talking about. Children, and you were a child once, think about it. There are things, if you haven't worked them through, things that you say, a way you behave, situations you get yourself in, people you connect to that you shouldn't be connected to. These kind of things happen. You travel a certain path because you're carrying a weight. You're carrying something that your mom, your dad didn't resolve. Your grandparents didn't resolve. Because a lot of people don't tell you anything. They just sweep it under the rug, keep it quiet, and you don't know. You may have a clue, may know a little something, but when you want the tea from them, you're not going to get it. And it's unfortunate. It really is. Because what they didn't resolve, what they have had to deal with for years, or whatever their childhood trauma, their relationship trauma, whether it's romantic, family, whatever it is, that weight is now on you because they didn't resolve it. And if their parents and grandparents and whatever didn't resolve certain things, all of it's on you. So think about therapy. Getting a good therapist to talk it out, to get some solutions so you can come out of it. And you pray. And whoever you get therapy with, don't get therapy with someone because you think they'll go easy on you. Or because you know, like a lot of people know, I'll get pastoral counseling. Has it worked? Is it working? It may work, it may not, because you know who your pastors are and so forth. It may not work. You might need a stranger. And if you don't like your therapist, you change your therapist, right? But get the therapist so you don't have to continue taking things out on the children and allowing them to carry stuff that you didn't resolve. Sometimes you have to just say how you feel. But be comfortable with it. Talking to whomever it is in your family or your friends or whoever it is that you need to resolve something. You need to say how certain things made you feel. And just do it. Get it out there. Say what you have to say. Have a conversation. It doesn't have to be wild and out kind of thing. Just a conversation about how certain things make you feel. I've had to do that. There was no closure, and there's not going to always be closure. But you will feel better speaking about the things that are bothering you, that people might have said that hurt you, things people might have done that hurt your feelings. And don't be afraid of the therapist. It can help. Talking it out can help. And the therapists usually give you homework, things that you need to do, to act upon, exercises and so forth. But get the therapy. I saw a woman today. Was it today? No, not. Okay, no, not that woman. Okay, I saw a woman a few days ago. Today's the other day. And she was talking to a little girl. I'll say the girl maybe was about 7. And she was crying about something that happened at home. And she was telling her to stop crying. And she was very, very, very close to the little girl's face. And she had her hand in the face. And I'm sure she was spitting in her face because she was so close. And she was just kept saying, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up to the little girl. And then the little girl would say something and she would say, what? What did you say? What? What? I'll talk about this in another video. But I recognize certain things in people because of some of my experiences as a child and a young girl. But sometimes people don't even know what you're saying half the time. Because they're angry. They're so full of anger. They're so upset about how their life didn't go. Or they were talked down to growing up. They were talked down to by a husband or boyfriend or whatever. So they talk down to the child. And it makes them feel like they have some power. Now, instead of going and getting therapy and talking it out with the people that hurt them, this child has to take this. This child has to go through this. That is so not fair. Why should a child carry the weight of 5 people? It's carrying the weight of the things their father didn't resolve. Carrying the weight of the things that you as the mom didn't resolve. That's 2 people. Now take your parents. That's 4. And if you take his parents, that's 6. And that's just parents and grandparents. It's not their grandparents. When you don't resolve certain things, and I'm not talking about something that might be dangerous. You need to talk to somebody, so you have to figure out who it is you need to talk to. But therapy, you definitely need to get in. People carry these things and they never say, what's what. It's not fair to the children. As a child, I carried a lot of weight. I carried a lot of things that were not resolved. Things weren't resolved with my mother. Things that weren't resolved with my grandmother. They just weren't resolved. There were things that my mother and my grandmother never talked about. That my mother went through as a child and as a young woman. And there were things that I learned later on that my grandmother went through or whatever with her family. And that's just on my mother's side. We could talk about my father's side of the family. So you carry a weight, and it shows up in so many different ways. You meet people that you shouldn't even be involved with in any way. You meet people that you shouldn't be friends with. You meet people that you shouldn't date. You may even go to a job you should have never gone to. You should be working elsewhere. Because there's something going on that clouds your judgment. Something's going on that draws certain situations to you and certain people. Situations, yes, and people to you. Negative. So now you go through some of the things your mom went through, or your grandparents went through. Because no one wants to resolve anything. I'm not talking to a therapist. I'm not cray-cray. There's nothing wrong with me. I have nothing to say to the therapist. I am not going to say anything because I don't have anything to say, because there's nothing wrong. I am as a parent, I did the best that I could, and that's that. Once they become 18, I am not responsible. Whatever they are, they are. It's not on me, it's on them. But even when you go to therapy, and you're feeling better, and you're doing better, there will be people who don't want you in therapy because their secrets, how dare she speak to this person and tell our business. Not concerned about you, not concerned about you doing better, feeling better, healing. Because they'd rather not heal than to talk about things. People don't want to talk about things. I don't like talking about my feelings. So your feelings eat you up inside out. Because if you don't resolve the issues, they manifest. They manifest. They have to do something. They have to move. They have to go somewhere. They have to draw certain things in certain people. Your life can go in certain directions that it wouldn't go in if you would just take the time to heal. You can go to the beach. I remember going to the beach with several friends several years back, and it was very late, And I'm not suggesting anyone do this, but at that time, we went out and we just screamed. We talked about some things we had went through, and we just started screaming. And when we started screaming and crying and screaming and crying, there was so much relief. And along with therapy, because one of the other girls was in therapy, and I've been in therapy for a while. And it was just there's so many exercises that you can do in healing. And when you start healing, things start changing. No life is perfect, but things start changing. Going through the same thing over and over again and trying to figure out why me, why? Go to therapy. Talk it out. And here's the other thing, and I mentioned this before today. Be honest with the therapist. Well, how is things going? How are things? We're going to talk about your childhood. Oh, my childhood was fine. It was great. I didn't have any problems. Well, what about in school? Oh, good. I was good in school. I was valedictorian. I was this, I was that. I was a straight A student. I had a lot of friends. So what about your romantic life? Oh, I'm good. I'm not seeing anybody, but I don't want to see anybody. I'm perfectly fine the way I am. Why don't you think about the things that you are quick to defend? And yes, research therapists. Research. You may get a therapist by word of mouth, someone you know that has a therapist, that their therapist could recommend someone. But do your research and know the do's and don'ts of a therapist. And of course, as a client. But go ahead and do it, so you don't put all these things on your kids. And here's the other thing. Start going through therapy so these things can lift off of you and off of your loved ones. Because if you're married, you're in some kind of relationship with someone, those things can affect your relationship. Stop dumping on the kids. And what I wanted to say, okay, so I just kind of got away from it. The woman and the little girl, it was very sad to me because the little girl was so frightened. And you know how people say, well, you're supposed to discipline your children and all that. Yeah, whatever. That's not what I'm here. I'm not getting into that. But there's discipline and then there's abuse. Get your therapy. Talk to them and be honest. Be open with the therapist as an onion. Peel it slowly, little by little. But just don't sit and take everything out on your kids because they look like their father, they act like their father, whatever the case may be. Get well so you can have healthy relationships, a healthier friendships, romance, work, whatever it is. And don't put it off any longer. So until next time, don't give up on loving you. Don't give up on yourself. Get better.